what we consider waste, in actual fact, is wealth. Because from every plastic that you throw out, for instance, so many jobs can be created apart from saving the environment. From those that collect them, to those that process them, to those that convert them, into other products. Along the value chain of that waste are several jobs. When you talk about renewable energy, I give that as an example, for instance. The fact that more energy will be available, which means you can get more small jobs like barbing shops, for instance, staying longer, okay? If you like, welders or beauty parlors and all of those. People who, for instance, would have had issues, with their businesses, for instance, by having renewable energy. I'm just using solar as an example, for instance. You find that people are able to stay longer. The value chain of that technology alone creates several jobs. And beyond that, these jobs these businesses that are sustained are able to employ several more people. And so you find a multiplicity of jobs. And so it's so easy to create millions of jobs just by creating green jobs. Quite frankly, gas flaring is something that bothers me a lot. I think that the problem is the lack of will on the part of government. What does gas flaring do? One, it degrades the environment. It pollutes the air. Secondly, you find that what it does is we're wasting resources as well. I think that the fines that is slapped on the wrists of these oil companies is very small, which is why they are motivated to continue to flare gas. Russia, for instance, is able to they're the biggest gas suppliers in Europe, for instance. They don't flare their gas, okay? And so we can generate so much money, by stopping the flaring of gases. And if the companies insist, slap such a huge fine on them, and the money that is generated from this fine can go into agriculture, it can go into health, it can go into education. And so what it really requires is a will on the part of government to ensure that there is no motivation for flaring gas. I think mini grids. Why do I say so? When I hear that we generate 3,000 to 4,000 megawatts of electricity, I say that's a big lie. And the reason I say so is because individually, we have our own mini grids. If you look at all the generators that where we generate power in our homes, the solar panels that we use in our homes and all of that, all together you have between 40 to 70,000 megawatts, except that they are not aggregated and put into, and put into one place where we can actually see what we're getting from it. And so the first thing I think we need to do is take it off the exclusive list, take it out of the exclusive list so that we can generate individually, corporately, at the state level, more electricity, and this will benefit more people. Critical for me is the issue of reforestation and reforestation generally, because linked to security issues in Nigeria is the issue of desertification in the north. That puts pressure on the rest of the country. And so when you find herdsmen who cannot find foliage in their area, they move into areas where you have greener foliage, and then agriculture and all that. So that creates security problems. So I link to my green agenda will be linked to my security agenda as well, because if I tackle the issue of desertification, I'll be tackling security at the same time. Industrial cleanup is very critical for me. A lot of companies come into this country. If you go to the Niger Delta, for instance, the number of spills per year there is over 600. The people cannot farm, the people cannot fish, their lives are almost useless because of the pollutants and all of that. And then in the cities as well, you find industries who indiscriminately pollute the environment and groundwater. So we cannot have clean water, and we do not have, the environment is polluted. So that is something that we're going to tackle heads on. We will promote as much as possible. If it means removing tariffs and all that from renewable energy sources and materials, we will do that to encourage renewable energy, solar, wind, hydroelectricity, and whatsoever we can, even biofuel, from waste to wealth. Then finally, the issue of flooding. these are avoidable. There are international protocols or agreements that we need to implement, things that we need to do. With our neighbors, for instance, we find that through no fault of theirs, sometimes they have to release dams, and we are at the receiving end, we are at the bottom. And what this causes is flooding across, so that our people don't end up suffering, and the farm produce is not wasted, lives are not wasted, livestock are not wasted. These are for me very, very critical, and they form the nucleus of my... Well, let me start with where I come from, for instance. I come from a place called Fuga, and I will say this on national TV, and it can be investigated. The federal government has signed off ecological projects there that were never implemented because they want to use them for whatever reason. Let me not go into details. When the people talk, they begin to threaten them, or sometimes say, oh, what do you want us to do? You want to expose us and all of that? And because the state is under the federal government, they will not talk because their hands in glove together. Many state governors are guilty of this, the federal government is guilty of this, and at the end of the day, the ordinary masses pay the price for this pilfering. And so what I will do is ensure that one, every single dollar or naira of the ecological fund is implemented for what it is meant for, to the letter. If anyone is diverted for whatever reason, whoever is in charge will pay dearly for it. There will be zero tolerance to theft or misuse of ecological fund. I have more than one favorite, but top of the bill is SDG 4. Education and human capital development is critical for me. 9 is also very important to me. 9 would be, I think, innovation, industrialization, and infrastructure. We need to sustain our environment for tomorrow, because if we do not take care of our today, there will be no tomorrow. And so that is these 3 are very critical for me.